Joining us via Skype to discuss this is Public Finance and Policy Analyst Olusegun Elemo. Olusegun, good morning. It's good to have you join us right now.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Great. Now, when it comes to the issue of housing, talk to us basically. There are houses everywhere. You can find a house anywhere you want, but it is still very difficult for an average person to find a house in a convenient manner. Let me put it that way. Why is it so, especially in Lagos?
Well, I understand your sentiment, but it's not just Lagos. I think it's the entire country. And you know, housing, actually, when you talk about housing, you're talking about two things primarily. You're talking about affordability and you know, a livable environment. So those two things are very critical to housing. And then because Lagos is more cosmopolitan and is largely urban, certainly you're going to have, you know, that kind of challenge in an environment like that. And much of the challenge you have in urban environment has to do with the quality of housing available, the affordability, the cost, you know, and the likes. But I think it's much more about, you know, the population growth rate right now. We're growing at 2.6%. On a yearly basis, we're adding about 5.2 million people to the population. So certainly there will be challenge. The supply, you know, the demand outweighs the supply, you know, far, you know, largely. So you're going to have the kind of challenge that you have in the housing sector. But I think what needs to be done by authorities, relevant authorities, whether at state level, like in Lagos State, or at the federal level, is continue to review the housing policies and to know whether the environment is suitable for the kind of growth to match up with the current growing population.
So indeed, about 22 million housing, well, digits or deficit now, if you get my drift. Well, this is coming from the Minister of Housing. So looking at the possible solutions as a way out of this crisis, what do you suggest? Some people have called for, let's bring in this crowdfunding policies. Help us better understand this project or this prospect and its relevance in the housing sector.
Yeah, yes, there's that much deficit, but like you said, for me the way to mitigate this is to first of all review the current policy. The national housing policy, you know, 1991, you know, was put to address some of these issues. But I think we need to review all of these policies and to reflect current realities. Also, we need to look at financing for housing. And of course, we should understand that government cannot, particularly with the current revenue crisis that we are in, government cannot finance that housing deficit. So we need to find a way to encourage private individuals to invest in that sector. And all of that will be determined by the policies and whether the policy, you know, provides an enabling environment for them to bring the monies and the infrastructure and the technology to be able to develop that sector. Also, we need to look at the financing for individuals to also take up homes. As you know, much of the housing gaps that we have are even low-cost housing gaps because of the revenue structure of most Nigerians. So what developers need to now focus on vis-a-vis the relevant policies that will be made available is to look at how they can provide low-cost housing for middle income or low-income earners to be able to take up homes. But largely, I think we need to look at, you know, the structure of urban, you know, housing structure. For instance, in places like Lagos, you discover that there are lots of slums. There are lots of squatting, and then there is congestion even in those who have homes those who have roofs over their heads. So there's the issue of congestion, the issue of slum living, there's issue of you know, squatting, and all of those things, you know, will be sorted when we have low-cost housing facilities.
All right, Olusegun Elemo, thank you very much for. All right. All right, joining us via Skype to discuss this now is Public Finance and Policy Analyst Olusegun Elemo. Olusegun, good morning. It's good to have you join us right now. Now, a lot of private individuals and organizations who are into real estate are acquiring land, building massive housing estates and getting people houses. But a lot of people have also complained that many of those are not necessarily affordable for the low-income earners of the population. What do you make of this? How is that contributing to the challenge in housing?
Yes, of course, for the middle and low-income earners in places like Lagos, in urban areas like Lagos, and similar environments, finding accommodation is not entirely affordable for them. What is contributing to that is, for instance, if you speak with real estate developers, you will understand that there's not much of local content use in their development process. Many of the developers are, in developing their real estate, have to import most of the materials that they use. And so when you now take that and you look at the housing policy, which has always been about local content, use of local content, local materials to ensure that we have affordable housing, then you understand what the problem is. But like I said, much earlier, it's not just a Lagos issue. I think it's an urban, it's a general urban crisis that we have, and we have to find a way to incentivize rural dwelling, and that has to do with infrastructure drive, the kind of infrastructure that we provide, even in rural areas, such that will then mitigate rural-urban migration.
But Olusegun Elemo, still on the subject of this topic about the option of buying land and all that, we've also seen this land, this commercial land sellers, so to speak, giving further options for people. While they may be expensive, purchasing them as a whole, but what do you make of the options? Isn't this indeed contributing to more house owners, more people with houses in the country to reduce this gross deficits that we are seeing now?
Yes, I believe you're talking about the procedure or the process of acquiring land, isn't it?
Carry on, indeed.
Yes. Okay. Now, it's been a challenge, and it's not just a recent one. And then much of the clamor had been to review the Land Use Act. The process by which you acquire land, the building approval, acquiring certificate of occupancy or right of occupancy, all of those issues have been on the table, and there's not much that the current housing policy has done about that. But I think the relevant authorities now have to take the bull by the horn and ensure that it's easy for people to acquire land and then to process their papers and documents and things like that. And also, and again, not just to acquire land, but also what is the modality for financing, development of housing.
Okay, we have to leave it here now. Olusegun Elemo, thank you so much for your insight into this.